a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes, where we're changing the world, wait for it, one Om at a time. So, in today's show, we're going to be talking to somebody who I am familiar with, but I've actually never met personally. Sometimes I get to meet people personally and before we go on the show, and then sometimes I'm talking to people that live somewhere that I'm never going to go, and they're never going to come here, but it doesn't make any difference. Here on the Dr. Kevin Show, you just can't be in all places at once. I guess you can be everywhere and everyone if you're Michelle Yeoh, though. That's the word on the street. But no one's going to ever mistake me for Michelle Yeoh. Just saying. Anyways, speaking of everywhere and every when, a lot of times people are interested in past lives, present lives, multi-universe madness. Even people that are not Marvel comic book fans are interested in multiverses. Where have we come from? How did we get here? Where are we going? How much can we change? How much can we learn from where we came? How much can we teach our future selves from our past selves? Those kind of things sometimes mean you got to do a little digging. Sometimes you got to dig into the records and find out what is the truth of your soul and what is it here to do. We've brought on today's guest as somebody that can help you take a peek at your records. He can sneak you into the X-Files when no one's looking and pull one or two up and in hushed tones tell you everything you never wanted to know about where your soul came from. Before I introduce him, I do want to remind you that today we are, as in most days, almost all shows these days, for us, a live call-in show. That means if you want to call in, you can call in at 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057. You can go to the Facebook page, facebook.com, The Dr. Kevin Show, and you can find the full write-up on today's guest, as well as the links and how to contact him. And we are going to be adding, because I see that it didn't happen, we're going to be adding his website, which is, I'm going to pull this from memory. I believe, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, it's mediumlewis.com.
Yes.
Let's see if the old noggin still works. Yay! Who said I was too old to do this, right? So now let me introduce today's guest. Today's guest is Louis Grassi. He is an intuitive born that was raised in Portland, Maine, a place that I've lived a couple of times and worked. In fact, I was just there yesterday. Lovely city. He was intuitive born. When he came out and the doctor slapped him, he looked at the doctor and said, "You're going to get caught cheating on your wife, you know." And the doctor was like, "How did you know?" And he said, "Because I was born an intuitive." Those were his first words. I happen to have it on very reliable fact. He is a psychic. He is a psychic and an evidential medium. So he's going to prove that dead person is dead, even if he has to dig him up out of the grave himself. That's what an evidential medium is. I'm sure he'll clarify if I'm wrong. And he's also a certified Akashic Records practitioner. Now, I would think of certified in terms of certifiable crazy. Oh, no, that's me. Sorry. Louis aims to reassure, restore, and empower all of his clients by shifting their vibration higher and helping them to embrace their inner gifts. So that means he shifts your vibration higher. He gets you stoned, and then he helps you see what you didn't see when you were not stoned. Yeah, I think that's how we define that one. Furthermore, this New England native naturally instills a sense of tenacity and inspiration, a skill he gained while achieving sobriety after a severe drug and alcohol addiction. See, that's why he thinks he's an addict. He's an intuitive. All those drug addicts, you know? His work as a certified peer recovery coach. So you help people recover from their addiction to Peer One? Oh, that's right. It went out of business. So I guess you're out of this. I guess you can't do that anymore. Mentor fortifies his sensibility and intuition. His hobbies include singing. Oh, we must sing together sometime, Louis. Songwriting. We both write songs. Who knows? Maybe we can collaborate on a few things. And the visual arts. I don't know. If I don't see it, I don't talk about it. No. And as a recent client described his reading from Lewis, his gentle, empathetic nature always makes for a meaningful reading. So I am teasing him relentlessly, and he's probably already regretting being on the Dr. Kevin Show. Lewis, how are you today?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Come on, admit it. Wasn't that the best introduction you've ever had?
It was amazing. It was really good. I was really impressed with that.
Sometimes you just got to have to laugh.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, I'm gonna throw you some curveball questions here.
Sure.
And I'd like to start with, do you think that there was a relationship aspect between being psychic and ending up with a drug issue?
Yeah, that's that's actually a really good question. I think that's a really good question, and it's actually something that I've had to consider. I actually really think that anyone that, finds themselves with, whether, a drug or an alcohol, a substance abuse issue that becomes an addiction, there's always some sort of, void, that the person is trying to fill, but it usually comes out of like some sort of a mental health crisis, something that you're going through. And I know, from my experience, that was definitely true for me. And, I was, still am, somebody that's, had to deal with, I've gone through depression, but I've always been someone that's dealt with like really bad anxiety issues. And so, I actually think that, having such a powerful mind definitely lends itself, to being someone that, is more intuitive. Because I do think that we're all intuitive. I tell people that all the time. I think that we're all intuitive, but to a point, because I think that some people obviously, they develop it more, or they might just naturally be more intuitive. But I do think that there is actually like a correlation, because the anxiety issues, tend to be so much more prevalent in people that find themselves with addiction problems.
Well, one of the things I've been saying, because I'm gonna ask an inappropriate question. How old are you, Louis?
I just turned 35 2 days ago, actually.
Oh, okay. So not quite. I've been teaching psychic development classes for 32 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so 32 years ago, I was saying that 80 to 90% of mental health issues have some connection with misunderstood or unrealized psychic abilities.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah.
And I like to hear, because to me, you're the younger generation. I mean,
yeah.
Technically, you could be my son. I mean, you would be the age where I could have, you weren't born so lucky, but I'm just saying, technically you could be. And since I only admit to being 39, that's a really big deal. but those psychic abilities that children don't know what to do with, that leaves them on the outside. That makes them feel like they're a little strange or a little different. And then if they're an empath, like you're an empath.
Oh, yes, yeah.
If you don't know how to deal with shielding and properly protecting and understanding how your empathy works, it can create anxiety.
Exactly. Yep. And that's exactly what happened with me. Yeah.
And so there is already a question of what is and is not reality when you're really psychic. I was a really psychic child. So I mean, I get it. They were talking to me about my psychic when I was 4.
Wow.
So, you know, when you don't have the same definition of reality as other people, and a lot of people are very uncomfortable with your definition of reality or try to challenge it or tell you you're wrong.
Sure.
Now, you've worked as a peer recovery coach. You have gone back and helped other people who are struggling with addiction. Do you get involved with looking at it from the spiritual psychic aspect when you're working with those people?
Well, so I absolutely do, actually. You know, because when I got sober in 2014, in January 2014. So I just, you know, had 8 years sobriety, and, you know, that I've been in recovery. And, you know, the recovery coaching wasn't something that I got into right away, but when I first got sober, I definitely embraced, you know, the Alcoholics Anonymous scene. And there's a huge spiritual component to that. You know, when you go through the 12 steps, you know, you're doing an inventory. I mean, it's very much, you know, it's very, I mean, it was developed, you know, when, you know, the famed Bill W. developed Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, it's been kind of a consensus that he was consulting with some priests and, you know, to develop the program. And so, you know, there's a huge like spiritual background to that. But I just found in my experience, even when I was doing AA, I just found that the spirituality is definitely something I think that's been lacking, which, you know, in a lot of the younger generations, I think. And so, and obviously that can definitely, I think it can definitely open the door, you know, to having, you know, mental disturbances and, you know, that can lead to addiction, you know, problems with addiction and substance abuse. And so, I do try, you know, when I got certified as a coach, because it's in my state, there's actually like, we actually have jobs as for recovery coaches where they, you know, help people on the peer level, you know, someone in recovery helping someone else in recovery. And there really was no, you know, there was no like textbook training on, you know, how to be spiritual. But when I do work with people, I absolutely try to get people to, you know, to really try to see their, you know, to develop a spiritual compass and to really kind of embrace their spiritual gifts.
So, you know, it's interesting because people will mostly get referred to me. The majority of my practice these days is mostly referral. I do still occasionally go out and pip myself out. But people will sometimes say, when I say that I'm a spiritual coach, counselor, and catalyst, and they'll be like, are you going to, you know, I've been asked, are you going to try to give me God? And I'm like, it's not my job to give you God. It's my job to have you have a better relationship with the God you have. And if the God you have doesn't work, we fire them and find another one, because there's plenty of them out there and they all want converts. So let's find a God that better aligns with you if the one you've got doesn't work, but I'm not here to help you, to give you a God. So I think that that's very important. Now, my experience, because I get people in my practice who have gone through 12-step programs.
Right.
But oftentimes what it's done is it hasn't cleared up the addiction issue. It's given them the support to not be drinking or doing drugs or whatever the addiction was that led them into, but it doesn't necessarily deal with why did you become an addict? Like, what is the addiction? What is it? Because, the running joke for years and years was, you go to AA and you kick your alcohol addiction and you double your caffeine and nicotine addiction to replace it.
Sure. Right.
So they're not. So talk to me about that. If you're working with somebody, do you try to help them understand what is that underpinning that may let them release, or is that not in your purview or part of what you do?
No, it definitely is. Actually, it absolutely is, and I think it really is. Kind of like what we've been saying. Really coming from that, like a spiritual perspective with it, because as a peer, that when I work with them, they do know that I'm someone that is in active recovery. And from the get-go, people tend to really, I actually think you're getting into the realms of empathy, more, because people really can relate better to someone who can absolutely understand. But when I say understand, actually being in their shoes, can totally, they've been up close and personal, with this struggle. And so that makes it so much easier to work with that person. But I mean, I know I'm a big proponent of getting people to really confront and embrace their shadow characteristics, And when I say shadow, I of course mean, like the parts of us that we subconsciously repress. And so that's something I actually really try to do when I'm working, with people in the recovery coach setting, and to really sort of look at the sides of our personality, that contains all the traits that we don't really admit to having. And so, and I think that's actually, that's a huge aspect of really kind of, becoming more spiritual as well. I just love to help folks increase their self-awareness. And I really believe in becoming more self-aware. And I think that's how we really recognize our shadow side, because by default, I think that we tend to assume that the shadow qualities are strictly negative. But I actually find that it actually has to do with our perceptions and the parts of us that we perceive, to be dark and inferior. And which is why we hide that part of ourselves. So I really try to get people to like open up. And I do that in sessions with people too. I actually find that the lines are kind of, they're not, the lines aren't really there, like I actually do that when I'm doing intuitive sessions with people too, but I definitely do it when I'm working with people in recovery.
Well, a lot of and we'll be right back with Louis Grassi, who does a whole bunch of stuff, and you can check out mediumlewis.com and find out what they are.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. This week, we are on with Louis Grassi. Louis is a evidential medium. He's an Akashic record coach, and he's certifiably insane. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I got the last one wrong. Not sure. You can find out more about Louis at mediumlouis.com. We hope that he never gets too big, because then he would have to change it to largelouis.com. But right now he's mediumlouis.com. So that being said, remember, we are a live call-in show, and you can call in at 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057, he says in his best radio voice, and ask questions of myself or Louis. And in our third segment today, I'm going to ask Louis to actually demonstrate his Akashic record process, and I'm going to have him demonstrate it on me. And then if he has time and somebody wants to call in or talk to some dead people, so keep in mind, we're going to have one more segment of just Louis and I, and then in the third segment, we're going to open it up, and so Louis can dig into my records and tell you about all my past lifetimes as a mass murderer. Of stupid people and ignorant ideas, I'm sure. Louis!
Yes.
Welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show.
Thank you.
So, where I want to go now is, it sounds, so you are blending your recovery work with your spiritual work.
Yes. Yeah.
But what you say you do is evidential mediumship, and you do Akashic Records work, which is which is fabulous, and we're going to find out more about, both of those. And as a born intuitive, as you say, and I love to pick on that, so I will continue to do so, it feels like you're doing something like, I've been doing the spiritual coaching, counseling, catalyst work for over 30 years. People know that they can do psychic work with me. They know they can do medical intuitive. They know they can do mediumship. They know they can do all the little checkbox, I'm a psycho person stuff. But they also know that they can come to me with this integrative process that I've created through my experience and clients and education. Is there something that you do that is something other than what you're listing? Because, go ahead, answer that question, and then I may weigh in again.
Yeah. So, it's interesting that you asked that, actually, because I love, my favorite thing to do is to delve into the records, to work with the Akashic Records. And a lot of people will tell me that I do it in a kind of a different way than what a lot of people might be familiar with for what they do know about the Akasha and how it works, and really getting in touch at the soul level. And I definitely would say that is something, I don't really say that, but I definitely have cultivated my own way of really tapping into the soul. And one thing I do is I work a lot with imagery, and I really I almost go into, when I'm doing the actual formal, actually saying the prayer and tapping in, getting into that meditative kind of, it's almost like a trance is kind of what I do. And especially in the very beginning, and I tend to sort of, in the very beginning, I'll tell people, what I'm seeing visually. And it's always, something always will come up, and it's always very indicative of, it tends to be indicative of what's going on with them at the soul level, but it's always I work a lot with like symbology, and it's just, there's a lot of imagery, and I tend to really, I always, if I get it, I give it. That's always my rule. And I just always, share with people, what I'm seeing. And I always say to people, that I want to bring you with me. I don't want to just talk at you. I always, want to tell you exactly what I'm seeing. And I actually find that tends to be very, to start the session out that way tends to be very effective. People really like that. I think that you're just getting in touch with them, and it's, getting in touch with them at the soul level. And so it's just a really great way to tap in that I kind of just started doing. I just found myself feeling the energy in that way. And so that's something that I've kind of, that I've been doing when I tap into the records.
So I'm going to say a couple of things here. So in a minute, I will let you tell my listeners. Now I want you to know, because I've been on air for 17 years. You are not my first trip with somebody who does Akashic record work.
Sure.
It's been a couple of years since we've had anybody on that said that Akashic Records was kind of, like their area, their specialty. I have found a variety of different ways in which people have defined it, and in which ways in which they do it. So one of my willingnesses of having you on is I'm going to assume that you're going to describe it a little different, you're going to do it a little different, and you're going to be exposing my audience to yet another way to do it, see it, define it, look at it. I will tell you, if anything rings like sideways for me, I'm going to say it, because that's what my audience expects me to do. So I'm going to be interested, because I have to tell you, I have had somebody on the show before and really had a hard time connecting with them when they did Akashic Records, and it just didn't seem to go well. But then I had somebody else, a while ago, and it went very well. So I'm looking forward to have you knock it out of the park. No pressure.
Oh, yeah.
But before we define that Akashic record, and I get that there's a power to it, and oftentimes people may start by having a psychic session with me, and then they decide to go on and do the ongoing work, because there's a lot of stuff that comes up in a psychic session that they don't know what to do with, or how to heal, or where to go, and that relationship is built, and they trust me to help them get where they want to go. I say that because I want to find out, when you do the Akashic Records, if stuff comes up and it resonates to issues they're having now, are there like follow-up things you do, or is it kind of, here are your records, thank you very much, and have a good day?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that. I definitely, love it when they, want to keep working together. And I do think that there is like there's definitely a sort of, I guess you could say, like a backdrop that's presented, when I'm going into the Akasha, and that it would be, that they would definitely feel enabled to sort of, keep working together if the stuff comes up, which obviously it does tend to come up, lots of personal issues and, struggles. And really it's not even just, identifying the struggles. I mean, I love to look at strengths and to really try to, or to even, take a struggle at face value and to really kind of uncover the good that can be in that. It's, kind of like looking at shadow characteristics and things like that. So I definitely, I always am really welcoming and want, I love it when people continue to work, they want to work together and to really sort of delve into their stuff, so yeah, definitely.
So you So you will take people through an empowerment and growth and healing process through the doorway of Akashic Records.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I haven't had the chance to really look at your website. I haven't looked at your marketing materials. I know what you said into the radio show. I'm familiar because of your connection with New Hampshire Metaphysical, which my audience knows what that is. And, you know, that we often will bring people in to experience the people that are doing stuff through New Hampshire Metaphysical, which you're one of. But what I just said, I didn't get from anything that I really read. Now, I might have missed it, and I didn't analyze it, but I'm going to invite you to think about better languaging what you're offering. I think that you're offering more than people get before they experience you. And you have a unique proposition of a lot of different things that comes into a uniqueness that I suspect that you're probably not communicating as well as you could, because if you did, I think that you would be surprised at exactly how busy you are. I don't know how busy you are, but my sense is that you are not definitely fulfilling your potential. I hope you don't mind me saying that to you live on air.
No, that's fine.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, so I was just going to say, I don't disagree. I think that what I find, the challenge that I find, because I do think, I agree, I tend to not really, because like I said, I love doing, that's actually my favorite thing to do. That's my favorite modality. I love doing the Akashic Records. And I don't really, that is definitely, I'm glad you say that actually, because I really have been really kind of, I guess you could say maybe toying with the idea of really kind of being a little bit more, explicit, or I guess, revealing revealing the details of kind of what I do when I go into the records. And I think the difficulty is, though, the reason that I really haven't done that yet, well, for one thing, I'm new, I haven't been around the block too long, but, so I'm definitely learning, especially with the marketing side of it. That's there's a lot there, with social media and everything. But one difficulty I find, especially in my local community, is that no one really knows what the Akashic Records are. And, so that's, especially when I'm doing in-person readings, there'll be people that they'll say, oh, I'm very curious about what that is, but I have no clue what it is. And so they want like an explanation before, and actually they tend to want that after I explain it. So I do absolutely see what you're saying completely.
Yeah, and I think that there is more to it than even that. But, we're going to keep moving on in the radio show. I still do a lot of consulting, especially for spiritual practitioners and businesses, about how to get out there better, how to get seen better, how to, find their market, how to communicate their message. Because, all of our experiences up to this moment are helping us be our best self now, but we need to be able to use all of them. And, my early degrees were business and psychology, and I did 12 years in the business world.
Yeah, wow,
and so,
it's definitely useful.
Huh?
It's definitely useful. Absolutely.
Yep. And I find that a lot of times people come into their gifts and want to give them to the world, and then are clueless how to do so, and then end up not being able to support themselves which is one of the reasons I bought New Hampshire Metaphysical, was to try to help to move people up, because there's a lot of, there is more people out there that are looking and seeking for ways to make meaning out of the madness of their life.
Sure.
Then we have spiritual practitioners to help them that have walked away from let's medicate, let's pretend, let's fit in, you know, all of that stuff. We're at a completely different time. So let's, before we go, because we're going to be going on to our other break, and when you come back, I'm going to actually have you demonstrate a little mini Akashic record session on me so people can hear what it's like, kind of get a feeling, get excited about, oh, I want one of those type of thing. So tell us how, when people say, oh, that sounds kind of interesting, but what the hell are they? Go. Tell me. Go. Go tell me.
So what I tell people, you know, I try to be, you know, as you know, kind of rudimentary but really straightforward, you know, because I obviously don't want to get too deep, especially when I'm, you know, with someone, if I'm just about to, you know, in a session and doing, you know, using time and everything. So you know, what I usually say is that it's a heightened vibrational energy, you know, and but it's always about getting in touch at the soul level and really delving into the soul. And what I do is you know, we'll kind of get into a meditative state. If it's, you know, if I'm doing like a full, like formal session, you know, I'll say a prayer out loud. You know, I can, sometimes if it's remote, it'll just be kind of, you know, I could, you know, because sometimes I do sessions online. And sometimes if it's quicker, you know, I might just kind of connect to the energy, you know, quicker. But I essentially tell people, you know, it's very enhanced energy, and it's about, you know, just sort of raising the vibration, which is not something that's, you know, very, you know, it's you know, you hear that, but it's really about getting in touch at the soul level, you know. And what I actually like to tell people is that it's kind of like mediumship of the soul, as opposed to, you know, mediumship of loved ones, for instance. So,
are you saying my soul is dead?
No, absolutely not. You know,
Okay.
I guess.
So
Yeah.
we are taking our last break of the show. We will come back. Lewis is going to say his prayer, do his magic, and he's going to expose Dr. Kevin for the fraud he is right here on the Dr. Kevin Show.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Lewis, I am putting you on the spot.
Oh gosh.
I just want the audience to know I did clear with Lewis that he would be okay doing this. I would never set up somebody to do something like this without asking them ahead of time. I didn't tell him he'd be doing it on me. I just said, would you be open to doing it? He said yes. But I'd like you to, if I came to you and we've got about 15 minutes, not that you have to use the whole 15 minutes, but we have about 15 minutes till the show closes. So, I want everybody listening to this to hang up after they hear what you do for me and go to mediumlewis.com and, say, oh my God, that was incredible. I want an appointment. So in order for that to happen, I am here, and just treat me like I am a little mini Akashic record reading, and I will try to shut up.
Okay, great. So, okay. So I'm just gonna, connect with your energy, and so I closed my eyes. I'm closing my eyes, and okay. So I always like to really, tell the person what I see, and it tends to be, there's a lot of imagery. It's very symbolic. So what I'm seeing is I have this image of you, and I actually am getting it's actually flashes, and you're in all these, you're in different places. So I'm getting these flashing images of you in different places actually. And the first place that I'm seeing you, because it's very, it's like I'm staring right at you, and I have a very good perception of your physical surroundings. And what I'm actually seeing, the first place where I actually see you is, it really kind of looks like, it feels like a monastery almost, with a lot of open space. And it's you're standing right there. There's a lot of open space. I actually, there's it feels like marble, and I can actually see columns to the sides, to the right and to the left, and you're standing right there. And what's really interesting is you actually have a camera around your neck. And then I'm getting another image of you, but this is more, we're outside and we're in a field, and I'm staring right at you, and I see that camera around your neck again. And there's just all of these beautiful flowers around you. And I'm actually really taking note of that, because color always means something to me. And I actually see hydrangeas and pansies and freesias, tulips, roses. I see lots of colors around you. And the last image I see, and again, that camera is right around your neck, and I think it's really interesting because it looks like a Polaroid camera. So I think this is really kind of cool. It feels like it almost feels like another temple, kind of, but there's a ruby red carpet, and I actually see these golden, it almost looks like these golden vases with these, it looks like these really beautiful, the giant Himalayan lilies, which is a really soft white color. And then I see the blue, it's almost like a Tibetan blue, like a poppy flower. And I see this kind of along the sides of the walls, and it almost looks like there's gold dust on the floor. So I see these flashes of images, but that camera is really significant to me, because I feel like you're at a point in your life where because you are an amazing man, and you do a lot, and you've done a lot. And I feel like you're kind of at a point in your life right now where you're really trying to learn how to take stock of your experiences, is what I'm really feeling, because, I feel like, where you're, getting older, with all due respect, but I just feel like, it's almost like you're really wanting to hold on to all of the amazing things that you've done in your life. And I think that that's actually, what the significance is of this camera that I'm seeing. And I think it's really interesting, because it kind of came in really quickly, and I just was getting flashes of images of you, and I just immediately saw this camera, and it felt like a Polaroid camera, because you get the instant images, the pictures printed out immediately. So I feel like you're really kind of at a point where you're really trying to hold on to all of the experiences that you have, to learn as much as you can, and to really, because I do feel like you're also a very powerful thinker, of course, because you're very intuitive. But I just feel like, you are someone that already looks into your soul quite a bit, and you've had so many colorful experiences. And so I actually feel like, it's almost like you're having some of those moments where you feel like you're coming full circle in your life. And then it's almost like you're really trying, I feel like you're really trying to take stock of these and really find new and refreshing ways to hold on to all of your life experiences. So does that ring true for you?
Yes, that definitely rings true, and I will explain more later, but I'm going to let you, if you have more to say, I'm going to keep on taking it in, because you.
Hello?
I said, yeah. I said I will explain more later why it makes sense, but I was going to, if you had more to say, I wanted to hear it.
Well, and it's really interesting because that really kind of came in for me like really quickly, because I really, I can connect fairly quickly, but it's interesting because I also feel like something else that I'm just kind of feeling, I just feel like I'm tapping into is I just feel like you're such a, and I think this is something that's really kind of led you into this work, which you said, of course, you've been doing it for a long time, but I just feel like you've always been someone that's like a kid in a candy store with your spirituality, and you just love, to get involved in all the different, like really vastly different like modalities, like all of the healing modalities that you can, and you're really good at them. You take to them, but you're someone that you just love to immerse yourself in that energy. And so I feel like it's almost something where there's no limit to what you want to explore, and it's like you're just always looking. So I just feel like you're in a beautiful place, really, because this taking stock and finding new ways to really hold on to all of your experiences. But I just really feel like you're at a point in your life and your energy, where you can really sort of look around and really examine all of the experiences that you've been through. And, sometimes people will say, oh, you should write a book. And I know that you have done that, but, I almost want to say, I don't know if you've ever, written like a memoir or anything like that, but I just feel like you're someone, and not necessarily just looking at, oh, this is how I grew up, and this is what happened to me when I grew up, and this is how I learned this, and this is how I learned that, and this is how I discovered I was intuitive. I actually, would love, I would be someone that would just love to learn about like your unique experiences doing this work, because I really feel like you've given your life to your healing work. And so I really get that like very strongly as an energy.
So tell me, and then I'm going to tell you why it makes sense, because I want the audience to understand why I say that makes sense. Because that's always the powerful. It's easy to go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And the audience is going, does it really make sense? So I'm going to do some connections there. But if I was sitting across the table from you as a client, what would be your next step with me? Like, what would you want to say, or where would you want to go? Give me the deluxe car wash. Go ahead.
Sure. So what, and I always know I'm going to do, because I always, I always get really excited, and that's how I feel right now. I do feel very, I just feel very like in touch, with your energy. But what I would do at this point is I will, the sessions, one really important thing to remember with the Akashic Records sessions is that energy moves on the written and spoken word. And that is something that was drilled into me when I was first taking my Akashic Records classes, and I had no idea what they were. So basically, what that means is that, that that person's questions really will, drive the pace of the session, and they will kind of dictate, the pace of the session and the energy. And so I open it up to questions after I really just give them what I'm seeing and give them what I'm getting and feeling and tapping into and sensing. And I will, of course, really kind of explain, kind of like what I did. I'll, really kind of explain the significance behind, like, the really kind of vivid imagery that I will, tend to get. And then I open it up to questions, and they could ask questions about really anything as long as it's from their perspective. I've actually, sometimes people will want to ask questions about other people, and what I was always taught when learning the Akashic Records was that, that would be like an integrity breach. And that's really like with any, any sort of healing modality or counseling work, it's you always want to keep the focus on the person. So as long as, they're asking a question that's really kind of from their perspective, if they were to ask something about like their career, where their career's going, relationships. I do a lot of work with like people and their, interpersonal relationships, friendships, love too. But really, I just will really, invite them to ask like the questions that they want to. I also, I love to get people to really look at their own spiritual gifts as well and really kind of explore that in a session too.
Well, I'm sure when you peaked, you realized I have no spiritual gifts. I'm just a null. But so I want to say a couple of things. So first of all, I want to kind of validate what you were saying in that imagery from two different perspectives. Over the last couple of years, I've started to make a change where for 2 years, I taught a self-mastery through Tarot course. And it was a 2-year course. I mean, it was the most extensive, but it was helping people on a path of self-mastery through learning the Tarot in a very deep and meaningful and personal way.
Oh, cool.
Then and now I just finished a self-mastery through astrology course, part 1. And there'll be a couple more parts.
Oh, wow.
But it's teaching people astrology through their own chart and how it applies to them and how they can use it to move forward. And I've been moving on to creating a spiritual mentorship program for people who either want to launch a professional spiritual business or want to grow it to the next level, to kind of play that role of mentor, touch base. Just like if you're studying to be a minister, you get a spiritual director. If you're studying to be a mental health counselor, you have somebody that you go to, but on top of your learning, that is at that level where they're going to be able to help ground you, keep you focused, let you, like really, really encourage. So this whole mentorship is what I felt like these pictures were saying. That, because my question is always, what does Spirit want me to know?
Right.
And so I'm pretty much, for the most part, only teaching self-mastery type of classes to small groups, like 4, 5, 6 people. Because you can't do a big group and get into the individual evolution of somebody's soul.
Right.
So they tend to be small, hand-picked groups where I interview the people and see where they are, and then we kind of move forward. So that makes sense. So I'm sharing that because that made sense to all of those images. I find the Polaroid interesting because obviously the Polaroid came out during my lifetime. And
that's true, yeah.
In the last several days, even the last week, I have taken my mother's photo albums out, and my mother is now in moderate to severe states of dementia. So she's almost gone. She has good and bad moments. But I I just started this week to take pictures of the pictures out of my mother's photo albums so I could share them.
Wow.
So that whole Polaroid camera, which of course we had a Polaroid camera when I was a kid, because they were the hot camera to have. And then I'm going through those pictures and I'm trying to put together kind of my mother's life in pictures when there might still be days where there's enough of her to be appreciated. I'm getting family home movies made into a digital format so that if there's a day where, like we can get together and maybe have enough of her there to be able to enjoy a little bit of it. And then also it's kind of like the grieving process, because when you have somebody you love with dementia, it's the long, slow death.
Absolutely. It's one of my biggest fears that someone I love would develop that, so I'm so sorry.
Louis Grassi, mediumlewis.com. You can find Louis at lewismedium.com. You can also find him at newhampshiremetaphysical.com. You can find him at our psychic fairs, and he's going to be on an upcoming spiritual stew. So if you want to keep track of Louis or keep track of New Hampshire Metaphysical and what we're doing there, please go to newhampshiremetaphysical.com and sign up to be on our mailing list, and you will know when you can have Louis Part 2, and we will be on the stage together, so to speak, in a spiritual stew. Louis, reach out to me. I want to talk to you.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you.